So you should have got a piece of paper today, which is hopefully everyone got one. If not, I think Shelby's still running around trying to get some. Oh wait, I need one. She kind of dipped out. But anyway, so we'll get back to it. So the past 6 months we have worked on righteous resilience, and I thought the devil never really picks a time to be like, you know what, if it's okay with you, next Tuesday on around 2:00 I'm going to tempt you, so prepare. I wish he did. That would be great, right? And that was the purpose in this resilience, is to develop, like we had Brother Caleb did his lesson on armor, and we went into resilience. Okay, what do I do when it gets through the armor, and then it's getting my squishy parts. It's hitting my flesh. It's hitting these portions. And then we covered reach with Matthew 14 through 33, rooted in him, Galatians 2, 6 through 7, rapport, Ecclesiastes 4 and 12, reunion, 1 Thessalonians 4:17 through 18, repetition, 1 Timothy 4, 6 and 8, and then resistance, Ephesians 6 and 13. We were looking at those things on what do we do when the devil goes, hey, pop quiz. So I made a test for us, for all of us, and I'd like you guys to look at it. What do we do? How do we stay within our scripture today on 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58? Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. How do we stand firm in the faith when the world pushes back? El Paso is really cool because I live on the northeast side, and if you know about the northeast side, winds over there can get pretty. I've got a whole bundle of shingles, so I've had to fix a couple of those times where the wind gets underneath the shingles, and I'll find one in my neighbor's driveway, and I was like, hey, he has a tin roof, that's mine, so I need to climb up on the roof. But you don't know when that wind's coming. Yeah, we can do some things to kind of predict it. I can watch, K-Fox. I can see the weather's changing. I know that there are seasons that are there, but really, I don't know when the wind's coming. And I don't know what damage or how strong it's going to be when it hits. I just need to prepare. So that's the point in this, that resiliency. How do I stand firm when when the world pushes back, when the wind hits, when all those trials and tribulations hit us? Now, what I want you guys to do is take some time and kind of look at your personal part 2 on your worksheet. Which of the 6 R's, I remember reach, rooted, rapport, reunion, repetition, and resistance. Nope, I'm going to have to make them bold next time. But they're also on your list. I know you told me. Shelby's mouthing, I told you so. You wouldn't be able to see this. And I was like, yep. But you also have them in part 1. Which of the 6 R's challenged you the most in this series, and why? So when you start looking at it, what is the hardest R for me to do? What's the hardest R for me to look at? Question 2, which R best describes your faith? Walk right now. And then going back to Caleb on Ephesians 6:13, if you guys need to look at it again, what piece of armor do you most need strengthened in your spiritual life? This is, so in the military we do these things called war games, right? I ask you a bunch of questions, you ask me a bunch of questions, and we're going to play a game in our head on what it's going to look like when the enemy attacks. In that wargaming, we call it wargaming, right? Those wargaming, it prepares you for, well, what if? Something I talked to Brother AJ this week about was, life is half of ifs. I love it. It's L-I-F-E, right? It's full of it. You can't have, yeah, I know, it's one of those things. It's my dad joke. I try. Brother Carter's got me. Yeah, see? But life's full of if. If the devil hits me now, if I'm already down in a pit, what do I do? If if I get a phone call where a brother or sister is in need, what do I do? And that's where we were like, oh, this is where this resiliency comes in. I'll start it out. My hardest R word would be the repetition. That's my hardest. That's to me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because sometimes I go in and I'm like, okay, repetition, building godly habits, spiritual training, build endurance to run the long race, right? Well, I did it yesterday. That was good enough, right? I can take a break. Or, if I get accustomed to doing the same thing over and over again, I'm showing up to Sunday school class. I showed up. I'm here. It's that guy that goes to the gym and sits down on the bench and doesn't do anything. Sits and scrolls on his phone on TikTok and never puts a weight on the bench. Oh, it's fine. I got to answer a cell phone. Well, I showed up. Repetition. All of my coworkers at work know I'm a Christian. I said it once. That's my hardest. Now wait. See if anybody else has got any.
Looking at this, I think reach is the hardest, because I feel like I think I am anyway. But I think that I'm good with repetition, reading the Bible.
It's on. Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you mine.
but reaching, it's like, when, like a time of crisis or whatever, it's that momentary panic first before realizing that God has it. So it's kind of like, reach made me think of Peter walking on the water and then having to reach out for God's hand. So, but he started to sink first.
I think I have a problem with reach too. When you're in traffic and the guy cuts you off 3 times and then hits his brake. If I'm gonna reach, at that point I should reach, right? I need to reach for Jesus instead of, my parking brake or whatever else. I think I was pulling in Chick-fil-A the other day, and I was driving his Honda, and it's an '04 Honda. And some guy cut out in front of me, turned his left blinker on like he was gonna go into the left lane, then switched to the right blinker and then turned into the driveway. I was like, what are you doing? And I had an F-350 behind me, like just tailgating me. He honked his horn, and I was like, well, now I'm the guy that's everybody's angry at. I was like, I think you should have a rental limit on your car horn too. Like when you hit the button, you're like, okay, I got 10 times I can use this car horn this month. I got to make sure I use them where I can. So, is it really important that I need to get his attention? I think I'm going to go into my quota. But yeah, reach is absolutely. What else? I mean, and if we're perfect, I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not like that. No, if we're good with resilience and we've got it, and that's okay, so what else do I have to work on?
So you have rapport.
Yes.
You have Ecclesiastes 4:12 for it. And Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, so one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. Cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So are you using that to say, like when you're trying to talk to somebody about Christ and stuff, your rapport with them, or being able to get them to understand what you're trying to say without mocking you, or
Oh no, yeah, okay. So sometimes, and I think Caleb got that. Caleb was the rapport with the 3 strands. No, you're fine. Hopefully, I could have covered. I hoped that I went through everything and tried to sum up. It's very hard to sum up these classes into a very quick 2-minute review just to kind of do it. But if a 3-corded strand is not easily broken, right? We got that concept. But when God brings a man and a wife together, the 3-cord thing is what Caleb used, because he had this really nice picture of him and a Stephanie up there, and they had the cord, and this was the cord that the kids had played with and all this. But there's also a cord between me and you. There's a cord between us, right? That rapport. I should be able to pick up a reach, right? It starts with the reach. Or pick up that phone and be like, I'm having a hard time. And if you don't have the rapport between, I'm going to get judged by Adam. Where's Adam? I'm going to get judged by Adam. I'm going to get judged by Caleb, and they're going to put me down the second they hear me. Or are we going to do like we've been studying in 1 Timothy with holy hands lift up? And that's how we build that rapport. Sometimes that's a struggle, both to reach for that fear of what's it? Yeah, rejection. The other R word. That fear of rejection. The fear of I have to admit that I'm not perfect. I have to admit that, oh no, I didn't reach. What was mine? Repetition. I'm not perfect. And I never will be until, God remakes me into a new creature. I'm not perfect. I'm going to continue to trip. I'm going to continue to whatever, but it's a lot easier when I know that, somebody's got me. When I start to stumble and I start to fall, I got somebody that I can call on and go, I know that they'll at least call me back. And it is that interconnection something a lot stronger than, not saying that, a like on Facebook comment is not, it gives me, at least they read it. But am I building that rapport? Do I really know that my brother and sister is there for me when I go to trip? And am I going to be the one that go, you shouldn't have did that? Or am I going to be the one that go, let's work on this together? I have a big giant hole in my wall at the house. I was replacing, we moved in week one. I went to go hook up the dryer port, and I'm a big guy, and my laundry room is not that. So I'm like upside down behind the laundry, and I'm set everything, my legs all cocked up over everywhere, and I finally get it hooked up, and I start to slide, awkwardly backwards, and I slip, I fall, and oh yeah, the wall behind and the other side of the dryer doesn't have as many studs as it should. See where I'm going with this? So I have a giant me-size hole just through the drywall. Now, there's still that hole there. I'm going to YouTube it eventually on how to fix it. But you know what I did? I've got an extra curtain. So I tacked up a curtain, said, guess what? Looks good as drywall, so it looks like it was made that way. But that's what we do, right? I don't know how to fix it, so I'm going to cover it up. It looks good, and as long as nobody moves that curtain, I'm okay. But guess what? The problem's still there. And until someone asks, why do you have a curtain up in your laundry room? Because I don't know how to do drywall. Why? Putty and all the other stuff, and it's a me-size hole. It isn't like I can do holes, but I can't do holes. So I was like, oh, and it was fun. They're like, what did you do? Yeah, I fell into the drywall, and there's not a stud there to catch me. So, but that's the thing. That's what we do. We put up a curtain. We say, okay, cool. Until Troy goes, Vincent, what's behind that curtain? And I should have that rapport. Troy has that rapport that he's not going to judge me not for knowing how to do drywall. Yeah. He's not going to judge me for that. He's going to build up, and he's going to say, okay, look, I know somebody that has went through this, or I heard a story, or I read something, or I watched a YouTube video, and I got you. I may not understand how the hole happened, but I do understand why the curtain's there, and we can work through it together to try and fix that hole that's beneath that curtain in time, when you're ready. Does that make sense? I know I went off on a tangent, but that's rapport. Is that right? That's rapport? Okay. I make sure. I was here. I listened. I took notes. And then I did all of these were on YouTube. All of them are. I found that for the first time because I had to do security stuff, last week. And I was like, oh, I got to listen to the resistance class, which was really good. If you weren't here last week, you need to get on YouTube and look at it. And they're all here when you can't. I had a stroke, so it's one of those things where I miss stuff, and I'll lose like little memories and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I have the big portions and I have the spirit of it. But he made a really cool comment, and I have no idea what it was that he said. So we'll move on to the group discussion prompts. And please, I have ridiculous amounts of patience, so I can sit. What moment from the reach lesson in Matthew 13 stands out the most about stepping out of your faith? To me, do you know, Peter, the little portion, always it's about the little words, right? And that was what stuck out in my study, was that it wasn't Jesus looked at him and goes, "Oh, ye of little faith," right? And he picked him up. And then I had to do a deep dive, and that deep dive goes, it's not little, because he at least stepped out of the boat. The rest of the guys didn't. He got out of the boat. It was the long suffering that little is without a lot of duration. So he stepped out of the boat, but then lost it. So remember, that goes back to my portion on repetition. Like, I got it. I know what I'm supposed to do, but how do I keep moving? How do I keep what drives me to keep the net? Okay, I did it yesterday. Why do I have to do it today too? You know, it's like when I tried any diet. I'm getting bigger, I'm telling you. I try any diet. Reese cups are it though. That's my Achilles heel. I need those Reese cups, the peanut butter cups. The kids didn't eat them for Halloween. Didn't know Reese cups existed. Yeah, and all of the Reese cups were not safe. So what stands out with the reach story, that portion of being able to reach for Christ when you start to sink? Go ahead, Caleb. I could do the mic too. I think that'll work, but I can't have it close to my beard.
For me, let me find it. I had it. For me, it's verse 31. Because, like you said, Peter stepped out. That took, I would say, a lot of faith, right? Because
Move a mountain.
I've touched water before. I'm a big dude. Water doesn't really hold me. And I don't know how far Peter walked on the water. It doesn't say that, he made it 300 meters or whatever. And I understand, he's doing something that's not natural. And so the fear and the doubt comes into play, and he takes his eyes off of Christ. But for me, it's verse 31. It says, "And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him." So this fear and this doubt crept into Peter's mind, and he sank. And he cried out to Jesus to save him. It doesn't say that Jesus ran the rest of the way to him and then, lifted him out. It says immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. And that's just a reminder to me that even when we say, "Oh, I've been running from God," well, he's omnipresent. So where are you going, right? Whenever we decide that we want the relationship with him, he has already moved heaven and earth to be there. When we're ready, he's ready. He's just waiting for us. And so even when we fail, all we have to do is reach, and he's there.
A lot of times also, and it was immediate. Like, there's time for Christ to reach from this point to this point takes time. He already knew. Like, that's one of the things too, is he was prepared. Christ knew he's going down. I'll be there when he's ready. When they get cut off in El Paso, it's gonna happen. Christ knows that he's ready. He's ready for me. Okay, look, calm down, Vincent. It's fine. You're fine. It's fine. You have no idea what the situation is. Just relax. Yes, Lord.
It's a reassurance to step out on faith.
Yeah.
That safety road is there, even if you can't see it, if you can't feel it. It's there. He's got you.
Out in Odessa and gas and oil and gas, there's the derrick hand is about 400 or however high up the derrick is, and he's in a safety harness. If he slips, trips, or falls off that, he's in his harness. He's able to move around real easy attached to it, almost like it's not there. If he falls, it catches him automatically. It's ready. It's always there. He doesn't, like, it's second nature. And he walks around this, one of my buddies works oil and gas now, and he's moving around, moving the fingers. I'm learning all of these cool terms because I'm getting, I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff with, oil and gas. There's a lot of stuff that these guys deal with up in Odessa. And I was like, oh, man. But, he'll walk this pillar, and he'll pull a finger, and he'll run it, and it'll get connected, and it'll do whatever. And everything's all okay until it's not. And he could fall off about 40 different ways, slip between, all of the stuff. But his life, he's 100 and something feet in the air, and there ain't, it's all metal below him, metal and concrete. He knows that, hey, if I come off this, it's this harness has got me. I may fall a little bit further than I may get some scare, but inevitably I'm going to survive because of this harness that I'm wearing that, hey, I put on every day. So how does being rooted in Him, change how we handle disappointment or fear? That's that segue portion right there where we're like, oh. Well, when I come across the situation, and this is Vincent again. I've done my repetition. I've done everything. I know my resilience is there. When are you going to show up? God, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't you there? When Jesus reached out, how long do you think it felt like to Peter as he was sinking before he said, Lord? Jumping out of an airplane takes 11 seconds to hit the ground. It takes 11 seconds. That's the longest 11 seconds. When you have a car wreck, it's like time slowed down. No, time stayed the same. Your perception of it, those seconds, because you're taking everything in. Isn't that the same thing when we run into a hardship? That's where that repetition, I'm telling you, that's mine. That's my Achilles heel, that repetition. Okay, what did I not do this time? What is blocking my communication between me and, because said Jesus immediately. He was there immediately. That's where I go in. I'm like, ugh. So what is that being rooted in Him? How How is that supposed to change? How is it supposed to change the way that we look at disappointment and fear? Oh, we got two.
It changes everything because we can resist anything when we're rooted. Jesus is the author of life, and even if everything above ground is destroyed, there's life in that root. It can resprout. It can flourish again because of Jesus' power.
The one thing I keep in mind is that regardless of what happens in our lives, whether good or bad, it always works out for God's good and for God's glory. And if you just keep that in mind, from the death of a spouse to a horrible accident, in retrospect, when you look back on that stuff, it all was for His glory, period. So that's what keeps me.
You're raising your hand.
So, rooted, taking it in a literal sense, grasses, they grow and they have their roots in the ground, obviously, but, sorry. You can cut, like, you have disappointments and you have fears. You can cut up to, like, if you leave 70%, if you cut off 30%, the roots don't stop growing. If you cut off 50%, the roots stop growing for like 2 weeks and then they continue to grow. If you cut off more than 50%, they stop growing. So you have to be aware of how much that disappointment and that fear is chipping off of you, how deep that goes, but you have the reassurance that if it cuts off a bit, if it's only this much, it's not okay that it cut off that much, but it's okay. Like, you have a safety net. You have it's not going to hinder the growth of the roots if a little bit off the top is cut off. You can handle a little bit of disappointment.
Matthew chapter 13, the parable of the soils. If we start at verse 5, it says, "Some fell in the stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched because they had no root, and they withered away." Then he explains it a little bit further in the chapter. It says, "But he who received," this is verse 20, "he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. But yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a little while. For when the tribulation and persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles." The opposite of not being rooted in Christ is having no roots or shallow roots. And then as soon as the sun comes up, the plant withers. As soon as there's trials and tribulations, as soon as the devil attacks, as soon as life gets hard, you give up. And the faith that has sprouted, the seed sprouted, it dies because you had no roots. So Christ tells us that we should be rooted in him so that we can endure the trials and the tribulations that we know are coming.
One of the things that stuck out in Demetrius's class the most with me, that rooted in him, is the portion that we've already won. We have, like, that word fear for a Christian is false evidence that appears real. the worst thing, again, that our lives are going to do, and we have this retention and we have all of this stuff, is that but I could die. Or it could, the worst thing that this world could do is take me from it. And joke's on you, I got it. I've already got life. I have my salvation. It's false evidence. You're bringing, well, I could take it. Take what? My life? I gave that away in baptism. You can't take it because it isn't yours to take. You can't take it because it belongs to somebody that created everything. And good luck. It is that portion of, like, we've won. Me being rooted in Jesus, me being rooted in this, my portion keeps those things like a tree planted by the water. Yeah. I shall not be moved. That I love those songs. It's one of those things. But we're feeding it. It's there. And we'll go into the next portion for rapport. But that's one of those things that we have, knowing that I am rooted. Now, something about grass, right? Sod. We have a lot of grass out here that's laid in cubes, and I've seen, like, they stack them up in pallets, like, and I was like, what is going on? It's the roots are exposed, the grass is there, it's all kind of intertwined all together, but if you lay it down, water it, it comes back to life. That blows my mind. But again, that's what we have here in the church. Our roots are interconnected. The more interconnected we are, the stronger we come as a group. We're pulling the nutrients like a branch, right? I'm the branch, or I'm the vine and you are the branches, right? So we're pulling nutrients from the source. We're in our Bible, we're doing things, we're finding out, making sure that God is with us. But it is that rapport, that togetherness that we have prevails. It's what keeps us. When the whole group is picked up and lifted, it can keep you alive. COVID. I go back to where churches were shutting their doors. It's the people that stuck together, right? Pulling from, well, how did I do that? How do I get these portions? And though a man might prevail against one of us alone, two will withstand him. Like a threefold cord is not quickly broken, right? So we have that portion. I've got you. I got one of you. Not for long. Because if I have that rapport, are you going to listen to the world, or are you going to listen to your brother and sister in Christ? I got you. I got a hook in him. Not for long. Because I'm watching. I'm looking for him. I'm making sure that the devil isn't coming after you, my forever family.
When we do training for hand-to-hand combat, even though we've got all these great weapons and things, there's still a human factor in war. Even though we've got drones and airplanes and missiles, you could still run into somebody and have to fight hand-to-hand like they used to do, right? So we train for it, we prepare for it, and we learn how to use our bodies as a weapon. But there's a saying, who wins in a hand-to-hand fight? Whoever's buddy shows up first.
Yeah.
The best thing that could happen if I'm fighting another soldier hand-to-hand is another American soldier join in. And I think it's the same. If I'm struggling with the devil, if I'm struggling with a sin, the best thing that could happen is another brother or sister in Christ come alongside me and help fight, help carry that burden. Because then I'm not alone. I've got someone. And if I have a whole community of Christians that are doing life with me, we could call it a church if we wanted to give it a name, right? That's even better.
If you gotta label it, man. But that's the thing, is this isn't like God built Adam and saw that it was not good for Adam to be alone, and then made him a helpmate. This race isn't supposed to be done by yourself. And if you're trying, like, one of those things, well, I don't need to go to church. I got my Bible. I got Jesus. I'm good. Why go to that building? Why do I need to go to a worship service? Why do I need to go to be with like-minded believers? Why do I need to go? Because this isn't a race that you're supposed to run by yourself. Thank you. So, one of the portions that I look at 1 Thessalonians, right, in that portion, regardless of with reunion, one of those things that I look at is regardless of what goes on here, I have people that I'm going to see on the other side. Like that fear that we were talking about. The worst thing could happen is I die, and joke's on you, I get to go to heaven, and I get to see all of the people that beat me there, that ran the race and finished the finish line before I did. And they're already there. They're waiting. They rejoiced on the day of my baptism. Now I get to meet them. Now I get to talk to them. Now I get to have this relationship. It's church every day. And there's a deeper one there. If you don't want to come here, you don't want to be, if I want to shun my brothers and sisters in Christ, they're going to be there forever. Might as well fix it here. Yes, no, absolutely.
The way I see it is, there's so many countries where you can't exercise your freedom of religion.
Right.
You are not able to express. So you have that right here, so why not come to church and be with other fellow believers to help you in your growth?
That's a great question. And that's a good point. Because there are many, many places that you can't come to church. You can't come together. You can't be here. You can't. This is a privilege that being where we are and in the time we are and all of the other fun factors, like this is what we got. So, and that's a point. Like, it could be, I'm not going to go into it. We're going to start Galatians next, Galatians chapter 5 next week. And then maybe something along that portion, those fruits of the Spirit. I know that's the very first lesson we went into when I showed up. Caleb was doing it. He had an awesome song. But yeah, I'll leave the lesson as y'all's. And I appreciate all the input and everything. I'm running out of time. People are showing up. Thank you so much.